Millionaire CEO hired a fake wife, but fell for the woman he couldn't forget. Adrian Cole, a 38-year-old self-made millionaire and CEO, was respected by everyone in the corporate world but secretly despised the loneliness success had carved into his life. When his younger sister announced her wedding, Adrian felt both joy and dread. She insisted he bring a day, but Adrian wasn't married, and the whispers of family pressure haunted him. At board meetings, his competitors often mocked his bachelor status, hinting that his empire lacked family values. His mother was no better, constantly reminding him that his father, at the same age, already had 3 children. Adrian needed a solution. A wife at least on paper would silence gossip at the wedding and keep his family's pride intact. One late evening, scrolling through old contacts in his phone, Adrian's gaze froze on a name he hadn't seen in years. Leela Bennett. She had once been his neighbor, the girl with paint-stained hands and a dream of becoming an artist. They had lost touch after college, but her name triggered a memory of warmth in his otherwise cold world. On impulse, Adrian searched her name online. Lila now worked as an art teacher. Far from the corporate chaos Adrian lived in, her smile in photos was genuine, unfiltered, a reminder of everything money couldn't buy. His heart raced. Could she agree to help him? Could he dare to reach out after years of silence? The next morning, Adrian drafted a message. He wrote, deleted, and rewrote several times. Finally, he kept it simple. Lila, it's Adrian. I know it's been years, but I have a strange request. Can we meet for coffee? His finger hovered over the send button before pressing it. Minutes felt like hours until her reply arrived. Sure, tomorrow. They met at a quiet cafe. Adrian, in his sharp suit, looked every inch the CEO. Leela, in a paint-splattered sweater, looked every inch herself. Her laughter was still the same light, contagious, sincere. Adrian explained his predicament, awkwardly admitting he needed a fake wife for his sister's wedding. To his surprise, Lila didn't laugh at him. Instead, Lila leaned back and studied him. So, the great Adrian Cole, billionaire genius, needs my help to pretend he's in love? She teased, her eyes sparkling. Adrian smirked, but inside, his heart twisted. He needed her, but not just for the wedding. Seeing her again had awakened something buried deep within him. After a pause, Lila agreed. All right, Adrian. I'll be your fake wife for one weekend, but only because your sister deserves happiness without drama. Adrian exhaled in relief. He promised it would be easy. Show up, smile, hold his arm. Neither of them realized how much harder pretending would become. The weekend approached quickly. Adrian had her styled with a designer dress, but when Lila stepped out of the boutique dressing room, his breath caught. She wasn't just the girl he remembered. She was radiant, elegant, unforgettable. For the first time in years, Adrian couldn't focus on business. He only saw her. At the wedding! Whispers filled the room. Adrian finally settled down, Relis murmured, impressed by the stunning woman at his side. His sister beamed with joy, grateful he wasn't alone. Lila played her role perfectly graceful, witty, supportive. But beneath the facade, Adrian's heart pounded with a question he couldn't shake. Was this still pretend? As the night unfolded, Adrian found himself watching Lila more than anyone else. She laughed, icily with his sister, charmed the guests, and even won over his skeptical mother. For the first time, Adrian didn't feel like an outsider at a family gathering. He felt complete, and it terrified him. During dinner, an old rival approached. So this is your wife, he sneered, eyes narrowing. Adrian tightened his grip on Lila's hand. Without missing a beat, she smiled warmly and said, yes, I'm his better half. Her confidence disarmed the man instantly, leaving Adrian in awe of her strength. Later, when music filled the hall, Adrian reluctantly asked, dance with me. Lila hesitated only a second before nodding. As they swayed together, he breathed in the faint scent of paint and jasmine. It wasn't part of the deal, yet it felt dangerously real, like they belonged in each other's arms. Their closeness didn't go unnoticed. Guests whispered about how deeply in love they looked. Adrian's sister teased him with a knowing glance. Leela, though playing her role, began to feel her own heart betray her. Every smile from Adrian, every gentle touch, stirred feelings she thought long forgotten. After the wedding, they slipped away to the garden. Stars glittered above them. "You did amazing tonight," Adrian said softly. Lila smirked. "So, did I pass the test as your perfect fake wife?" He wanted to tell her it wasn't fake anymore. Instead, he only murmured, "You were more than perfect." The next day, Adrian drove Lila home. Silence filled the car, thick with unspoken words. At her door, she finally asked, "So, this is it?" Adrian's throat tightened. He wanted to ask her to stay, but fear of rejection kept him silent. He simply nodded, watching her walk away. Back at his penthouse, Adrian couldn't be focused on work. Every room felt emptier than before. He scrolled through his phone, staring at a number, but pride stopped him from calling. Meanwhile, Lila sat in her tiny studio, painting furiously to drown out the ache in her chest. Weeks passed. Rumors spread in the business world about Adrian's mysterious wife. Investors congratulated him, believing marriage had stabilized his image. Adrian didn't correct them. Each time someone asked about her, his heart twisted because the woman who held his world together wasn't really his. One evening, fate intervened. Adrian attended a charity gala, and across the room, he saw her. Lila, in a simple blue dress, was speaking with children about art. She hadn't noticed him yet. He realized then she didn't need his world of power and money. She already had a world of her own. When their eyes finally met, Lila froze. Memories of the wedding, the dance, the closeness all came rushing back. Adrian approached slowly, his heart pounding. For once, the confident CEO felt uncertain. "Lila," he said softly, "I can't keep pretending. Not about you. Not about us." Lila's breath caught at his words. She forced a smile, trying to hide the storm inside. "Adrian, that was never real. It was just a deal. Remember?" Her voice trembled, despite her effort. Adrian shook his head. "It was real to me. Every second." They stepped out onto the balcony, away from curious eyes. The city lights stretched endlessly below, but Adrian saw only her. "Lila, I don't want a fake wife anymore. I want you." His vulnerability, so rare, left her speechless. For a long moment, silence hung between them. Then Lila whispered, "I don't belong in your world, Adrian. I'm just an art teacher. You're a millionaire CEO. People will laugh at us." Adrian smiled faintly. "Let them laugh. They've never made me happy." "You have." Her heart pounded. She wanted to believe him, but fear held her back. "I've seen your world, Adrian. It's ruthless. I'd get lost in it." His eyes softened. "Then I'll walk out of it for you. I don't care about the empire if I can't share it with someone real." Tears welled in her eyes. She turned away, overwhelmed. "I need time," she whispered. Adrian nodded, though inside it tore him apart. "Take all the time you need. Just know, I'm not going anywhere." Days turned into weeks. Adrian sent her flowers, not the expensive, rare kind, but simple, daisies, her favorite. Each bouquet carried a note, never asking, only reminding her, "I'm here, always." Slowly, her walls began to crumble. One evening, Lila found herself sketching Adrian's face, his guarded eyes, his rare smile. She stared at the drawing, realizing she had fallen in love despite herself. Fear melted into longing. She knew she couldn't keep denying it. She called him. Adrian answered on the first ring, his voice tight with hope. "Lila," she exhaled shakily, "can you come over?" Minutes later, he stood at her door, breathless, as though afraid she might change her mind. Inside her small studio, surrounded by canvases, Lila finally spoke. "Adrian, I don't want to be your pretend wife. I don't want to be a secret either. If we do this, it has to be real." His chest tightened, and he stepped closer. "That's all I've ever wanted." Then, without hesitation, she kissed him. It wasn't staged. It wasn't for appearances. It was raw, vulnerable, real. For the first time in years, Adrian felt whole. The CEO and the artist, from two different worlds, had finally found the courage to build one together. News of their relationship spread quickly. "Saw me Adrian's colleagues mocked him for choosing a nobody, while others whispered that he'd mind. Adrian ignored them all. For once, public opinion meant nothing compared to the woman standing by his side. His family, however, wasn't as forgiving. His mother invited Lila for dinner, her tone icy. Throughout the evening, she dropped subtle insults about Lila's background and appearance. Lila stayed graceful, answering with kindness, which only made Adrian admire her more. Afterward, Adrian confronted his mother. "You don't have to approve, but you will respect her." His mother looked at him in shock. Never before had he spoken with such defiance. For Adrian, this wasn't just about love, it was about finally living life on his terms. Meanwhile, Lila wrestled with insecurity. She loved Adrian deeply, but whispers from outsiders gnawed at her confidence. Was she enough for him? Could their love survive the constant judgment of his world? Still, every time he looked at her with unshakable devotion, she found courage. One evening, Adrian surprised her with a visit to an art gallery. As they walked in, Lila gasped the walls were lined with her own paintings. "How?" she stammered. Adrian smiled. "I bought them from your students. I wanted the world to see what I see. Your brilliance." Tears filled her eyes as guests admired her work, offering praise she had never imagined receiving. For the first time, Lila wasn't just Adrian's love interest. She was recognized as an artist in her own right. Adrian had given her more than love. He had given her a platform. But just as their bond deepened, trouble loomed. A tabloid released photos of their first fake wedding, spinning it as a scandal. Millionaire CEO paid woman to pose as his wife. The headline screamed. Lila's heart sank. Would this ruin them? Adrian's PR team panicked, urging him to deny everything. But Adrian refused. At a press conference, he took Lila's hand and said, "Yes, it started as an arrangement, but somewhere along the way, she became the love of my life. I will not hide that." The media buzzed. Some ridiculed, but many admired his honesty. For Lila, it was the proof she needed. He wasn't ashamed of her. In that moment, she knew their love wasn't fragile. It was strong enough to withstand anything. That night, as they sat together on a tiny balcony, Lila leaned against him and whispered, "You risked everything for me." Adrian kissed her forehead. "No," he said softly. "I risked nothing. You're the only thing that's ever been worth it." Their love story inspired many, but behind closed doors, Adrian still faced pressure from investors who claimed his relationship was bad for business. Adrian laughed bitterly. "If they can't accept me for who I am, then maybe I don't need their money." One investor threatened to pull millions from the company. Adrian stood firm. "I built this empire once. I'll do it again if I have to. But I won't give up Lila." His words shocked everyone. He was no longer the cold CEO, but a man who valued love above profit. Meanwhile, Lila's art career blossomed. She began receiving commissions, and her students adored her more than ever. For the first time, she wasn't standing in Adrian's shadow. She was shining in her own light. Adrian loved watching her thrive. At her first solo exhibition, he stood in the back. Quietly, proud as critics praised her talent. When she caught his eye across the room, she smiled, knowing he had always been a biggest believer. One evening, Adrian took her back to the mansion where it all started. The place that once felt like a cage now felt like a home. He led her into the garden, where lanterns glowed softly. There, he knelt down on one knee. Lila gasped, her hands covering her mouth. "I don't want a fake wedding this time," he said, his voice trembling. "I want forever. Will you marry me for real?" Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "Yes." The word hung in the air, beautiful and freeing. Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger, and the world seemed to melt away. Their real wedding was small and intimate, filled with laughter, music, and genuine love. No grand performances, no media frenzy, just family, true friends, and two souls promising to walk through life together. Even Adrian's mother, who once doubted Lila, eventually stood up during the reception and said, "I was wrong about you. You've given my son something money never could peace." Lila wept at the words, but Adrian only squeezed her hand tighter. "She didn't give it to me," he corrected. "She is my peace." Years passed, and their love grew stronger. Lila's art became renowned worldwide, while Adrian transformed his company into one that prioritized people over profit. They became symbols of hope that love and authenticity could thrive even in a ruthless world. Whenever people asked Adrian about his success, he always smiled and said, "It started the day I stopped caring about money and cared about someone who painted daisies." Lila often laughed at that line, teasing him, but deep down, she knew it was true. Their story wasn't just about wealth, power, or status. It was about two broken people who chose to build something unshakable together. At night, sitting on their balcony, overlooking the city, Adrian would often whisper, "I almost lost you when I thought it was only pretend." And she would reply, "But you found me when you chose to be real." Their children grew up hearing the story of the fake wedding that turned into the greatest love story their family had ever known. To them, it was proof that love could appear in the unlikeliest places. When challenges came in, they did Adrian and Lila faced them together. The ruthless CEO had learned tenderness, and the timid artist had learned strength. They balanced each other perfectly. On their 10th anniversary, Adrian surprised her with a trip to the very first gallery she'd ever dreamed of visiting in Paris. Standing before the art she once idolized, Lila whispered, "You've given me the life I never dared to dream." He kissed her hand. "You gave me the heart I never knew I was missing." And for a moment, the world around them disappeared, leaving only love, art, and memory. Their story was told and retold by friends, family, and even the media stripped of gossip this time. It was no longer scandal, but legend. The tale of a millionaire who discovered that love, not money, was the greatest fortune. As the years stretched on, their love never dimmed. They grew old hand in hand, proof that sometimes the strangest beginnings, like a fake wedding, could lead to the truest happily ever. And whenever they looked at each other, they still saw the same thing: home,